Hello and welcome to another episode of Hidden Video Game Details, the series where we take a look at some of the coolest hidden mechanics and details found in video games. As always, if you think you know of a hidden detail or Easter egg that I haven't covered before, then let me know in the comments, and if you want to help me out more than you already do by watching these videos, check out GamerSupps using my link in the description, in my pinned comment, or using the QR code on screen. Even if you don't want to spend any money, that link lets you grab some free samples, so you can taste before you buy. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. Now, the Simpsons Hit Run has amassed a cult-like following over the years. And for good reason. It's basically the Simpsons GTA. Personally, I've played a lot of Hit and Run over the years, whether it's for a video or just for fun, but I never noticed this next detail until now. The comic book guy is a bit on the large side, a fact that Bart is only too happy to remind him of.
Hey, Jabba the Fat, do you know where I can get a copy of Bone Storm 2?
Well, when you take a ride in the comic book guy's car, things seem pretty normal. But if we take a closer look, we can see the driver's side front wheel seems to have suffered more wear and tear than the others. Not only that, but the car seems to lean to one side. That being the side that comic book guy is sitting on. So basically, comic book guy is so overweight that it started to affect his car. Do with that information what you like. Now, we've already covered the cool handshake animation in Battlefield 6 in a previous episode, but it turns out there are loads more cool details to find in the Eggcellent FPS. And the first of those details, once again, requires us to shoot a whole bunch of bullets. When inspecting the M4, you can see that it's a pretty standard looking gun. And looking at the weapon's barrel, you can see that it too looks normal. Well, if you fire at your target like a visually impaired stormtrooper, this will happen. So after what is admittedly a whole lot of bullets, the barrel of your M4 will glow red, which looks really cool. Oh, and that's not the only thing that can get red hot in Battlefield 6. If you keep on using the engineer tool, and again you need to use it a lot, then this will happen. So the engineer tool will also glow red. The final Battlefield 6 detail, for today's video at least, is the return of our old friend Trigger Discipline. For anyone that doesn't know, Trigger Discipline is the practice of keeping your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. And it's been demonstrated in tons of games including Dying Light 2 and SCP-5K. Well, we can now add BF6 to that list. As you can see when inspecting your pistol, your soldier's finger is very clearly off the trigger. And when firing the gun, the same can be seen. So you can see your soldier moving their finger on and off the trigger with each shot. I don't know why, but ever since the first time I covered Trigger Discipline, it's always something that I look for in games, and I'm always happy to see it done right. Now, BRNO Transit, which I'm hoping I said right, is a game that's really strange. You see, it describes itself as a narrative-driven psychological horror game, but so far the scariest thing that's happened to me is eating a dodgy hot dog and having to find a toilet. Now, as part of your first day as a new train driver, you need to pick up your ID card. But what good is an ID card without your picture? Luckily, you can go to the nearby photo booth to have your mugshot snapped. Now, I was curious. I wanted to see if the photo booth actually took a picture of your character in real time, or if it always used the same image, which is something that most games would do. Well, let's find out. So the photo booth actually works, meaning you can get some pretty unflattering angles of your character. Like I said, this is something that would have been scripted in other games, so to see actual photos of your character printed in real time is pretty impressive. Now, a couple of videos back, I shared how changing the ambient temperature in People Playground would cause water to boil. I know that seems obvious, but I thought it was cool. Well, it turns out that you can set the ambient temperature so high that this happens. So setting the temperature to anything over 200 degrees centigrade will cause the water to evaporate completely. Now, as soon as water starts boiling, it evaporates. That's what causes the steam that you see when water is boiling. But I'm pretty certain that 200 degrees C isn't the temperature that makes water just disappear. But hey, I'm no scientist. Now, in most games, when you run out of health, that's it. You're dead. And that age-old video game rule applies to Ghost of Yotei. Well, sometimes. When exploring Yotei, you might run into Lord Saito's elite guards. You'll know when you see them because they're the ones with banners and bloodthirsty dogs. Well, when one of these guys delivers what would normally be the killing blow, this will happen instead.
We'll have to execute her in front of witnesses, on the order of Lord Saito. Her death will be an example.
We can always have fun with her first.
Do that and I'll stab you myself.
I'm waiting!
Let's see what you're made of.
So, Atsu is taken prisoner in preparation for a live execution, though a quick mashing of the X button sees Atsu free herself and deal with her captors in her own unique way. Now, I'm not entirely sure why this is a thing. As far as I'm aware, this only happens with this particular enemy type, and the game continues as normal afterwards. Also, I'm not entirely sure why the supposedly elite guards didn't strip Atsu of her weapons. But hey, I'm not an elite guard, so what do I know? Now, yellow paint is something that is pretty common in games, and I get it. Developers don't want to spend years creating a game only for players to get lost. Using yellow paint to signpost is supposed to solve that issue. But that raises the question, who is running around with a can of yellow paint in Resident Evil 4? Well, Ghost of Yotei doesn't use yellow paint, but it does use white paint. Except, I don't think it's paint. I think it's poo. You see, any climbable surface in Yotei is covered in white, but every climbable surface in Yotei is usually covered in birds. So, and I could be wrong here, but I think that Sucker Punch decided to use white paint to guide players, but didn't like the fact that it could be seen as immersion breaking. I mean, this is the game that uses the wind to guide you after all. So they decided to place birds where the quote-unquote paint was, so that it could be excused as poo. I don't know, I could be reading too much into it, but if this is what Sucker Punch are aiming for, I think it's pretty cool. The next Yotei detail is extremely satisfying. No, not that kind of satisfying, this kind of satisfying. So the blossom reacts to explosions in a really cool way, which just tickles a certain part of my brain. I mean, I expect the blossom to react to Atsu's footsteps, but to me, this is just really impressive. So that's it. If you have any cool things in games that you think I should check out, then please leave them down in the comments. Big or small, obvious or not obvious. If I think it's cool, I'll include it in the video and of course credit you like these people here. Remember, we are trying to reach 1 million subscribers, hopefully this year. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and helping me out. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.